Hi, still in volume 2. We're at part 2, Stories of Israel in Egypt. And of course, this page has Exodus 1:1 to 10:29. And we go to the part 2, Story 1, Light in Darkness. Um, it does have a nice, pretty illustration. That's what it is. And it's by Herbert Rudin, and it says God's people who moved to Egypt built homes there and were very happy during the life of Joseph, for God had prospered him and made him a wise ruler under Pharaoh. And that's what the caption looks like and what it says. And we're in part 2. Let me set it down for a minute. Push my glasses up. And part 2, Story 1, Light and Darkness. Grandpa, shall we ever see the beautiful land you keep telling us about? Someday, said Joseph. Some happy day. The slave boy who became governor of Egypt was now more than 100 years old, a grandfather to Ephraim's children of the third generation. And he would also be a great uncle to a host of boys and girls belonging to the families of his 11 brothers. I can see these children running into his palace to talk to him, for his kind, gentle heart made him beloved of all. And what wonderful stories he had to tell them! How they loved to hear him speak of the old days when he was a boy in Canaan, especially as he pictured the green hills, the snow-capped mountains, the rushing waterfalls of his homeland. For Canaan was their homeland too, though they never seen it and could only dream about it. Next page. He longed to go back there, but never could. There was never time. He was always too busy. His many duties made it impossible, and then he became too old to go. At last there came a day when he felt that death was near. Yeah, death was near. Calling his brothers to him for the last time, he said to them, I die, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of the land bring you out of this land unto the land where he swore to swear. He sware to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob, and ye shall carry up my bones from here. He knew that it was not God's plan for them to live along in the midst of a heathen nation. Someday, somehow, he would lead them back to a beautiful land for which they had come, and he wanted to go along too. That is why he said, carry up my bones. If he could not go to Canaan in his life, at least he would rest there in death. His brothers promised to remember his dying wish, and Joseph, contented, breathed his last. We are now told anything we are not told anything about his funeral, but it must have been a very splendid one. No doubt there was a great procession, with thousands of people following the body of the kind, wise governor to its resting place. His tomb may well have been near the pyramids, where so many of great men of Egypt were buried, and for years passers-by would say, "There lies one of the finest leaders of the country ever knew." In the course of time, however, there rose up a new king over Egypt that which knew not Joseph. This new king not only did not remember Joseph, he knew little, if anything, about how or why the children of Israel came to be living in Egypt. All he knew that there was that there were now more Israelites than Egyptians in the country, and he didn't like it, nor did his fellow Egyptians like it. They grumbled about the Israelis, vowing the oh okay. They grumbled about the Israelis owning the finest land and holding important positions in the government. As one complaint after another, as one complaint after another was made, Pharaoh declared that something must be done. So he called his counselors together and said to them, "Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply." And it came to pass that when there fall out any war, they will also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. The counselors needed no urging to deal with the Hebrews. They had been waiting for this chance. Now they worked out a plan to get the better of them. It was hard and cruel. No longer would the Hebrews be treated as equals, but as slaves. No longer would they be allowed to work for themselves or for their own profit. For now on, they would have to labor for the state. Imagine how the children of Israel must have felt as news of the king's decree spread amongst them. I can almost hear them saying, "It's slavery. They made us slaves. They have made us slaves." That's exactly what happened. Suddenly, and then it ends right there for a moment, and it's the illustration on the bottom. And we'll get back to it. Suddenly, they realized that the good old days under Joseph's kindly rule had gone forever. Now they were told what to do and where kicked and beaten if they failed to obey. The Egyptians set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for the Pharaoh treasure cities, Pathrum, Pithom, and Ramses. So it says Pithom, Pithom, and Ramses. Ramses, Ramses. Ramses. Day after day they toil in the blazing heat. From sunrise to sunset Men, women, children made bricks, mixed mortar, and built walls, while the taskmasters stood by, whips in their hands, ready to punish anyone that would try to rest. But though the Egyptians made the lives of the Hebrews bitter with hard bondage, they did not succeed in breaking their spirit. Though the Israelis were often sad and discouraged, hope never left their hearts. And the more Pharaoh afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. Back in their homes at night, they would talk about God's promise to Abraham, which had been handed down from father to son for many, many years. Know of, know of a surely that, know of a surely that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But in the fourth generation, I will, by the fourth generation, they shall come hither again. Again and again, they must have tried to figure out when the time would be up, and which was the fourth generation. Often they must have cried in sorrow, "Oh, how long, O Lord, how long?" Then someone would pass by Joseph's tomb and remember his promise. God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land. And once more light would break through the darkness. Hope would rise and hearts would be brave again. And then at the bottom it has them doing the little storytelling. Or the times they have a little storytelling. And that was part 2, story 1. And now we get ready for our next story. Enjoy.